Hello and welcome back, everybody. So glad that you could join me tonight. This is going to be my first foray into the case of the murder of Doug Benefield, who died September 27th, 2020, at the age of 58, admittedly at the hand of his wife, 32-year-old Ashley Benefield. This is a picture of her in court. And this is one of those cases where I haven't really been like, I don't know, elbows deep in it the way a lot of you have. But I have been watching the trial that has been going on this week with some interest. And what I want to do today is just start by maybe reading a quick catch-up article so that we can all be on the same page. This was published yesterday in Newsweek, and let me just pull this over here. Here we go. All right. Explosive opening statements in the murder trial of Florida ballerina kicked off. This is, let's see if I can get a picture of her up here. There we go. There's Ashley Benefield as a ballerina. It kicked off Tuesday, giving a preview of how attorneys will present their sides in the case being dubbed the Black Swan murder. By the way, the prosecution rested after just 3 days. So this is not one of those like super crazy Karen Reed ones that are going to take weeks and weeks. 3 days, and they rested their case. Ashley Benefield, 32, admitted to fatally shooting her husband, 58-year-old Navy veteran Douglas Doug Benefield, in their Lakewood Ranch, Florida home in September of 2020. The trial has commonly been called the Black Swan murder trial in reference to the 2010 psychological thriller film Black Swan. Prosecutors argued that Ashley Benefield wanted to get her husband out of her and her daughter's life, and she would stop at nothing to achieve that goal. Quote, "This is a case about a woman who, early on in her pregnancy, decided she wanted to be a single mother," prosecutor Suzanne O'Donnell said. She did not want the father of this child to have any visitation. Ashley Benefield initially tried to go through the courts, law enforcement, and the child welfare system, but she was unsuccessful. And at the end, when there was no other option, she shoots him and kills him and claims self-defense, O'Donnell said. The couple was living separately at the time of the killing. The two planned to move to Maryland, but continue living separately. Doug Benefield was helping Ashley Benefield move when he verbally insulted her and pushed her with a moving box, the defense claimed. The defense alleged she was injured in the incident. We're going to actually watch, I've got a clip that I want to show you guys of her testimony that she testified to today. Anyway, state argued that Ashley Benefield was not injured. They also pointed out that Ashley Benefield was armed with a gun she had previously bought while her husband was unarmed, and the trajectory of the fatal gunshot disproves any arguments of self-defense. You'll see that this was a custody battle and that this mother was going to win at all costs, O'Donnell said, and the cost was the life of Doug Benefield, and that is murder. The defense team claimed that Benefield was abusive and intimidating. "I want you to note how he's built for a 58-year-old man," defense attorney Neil Taylor said. "I'm going to have some strong words about Douglas Benefield, the alleged victim in this case. I say alleged victim because he was anything but that. The evidence is going to show that Douglas Benefield was a very disturbed man." Taylor said Doug Benefield was obsessed with his wife and insisted on control. "He fired a handgun into the ceiling of their kitchen on an occasion to stop Ashley from talking," Taylor said. "He threw a loaded gun at Ashley. He punched their dog in the face so hard that he knocked the dog unconscious." He also claimed that Doug Benefield punched several holes in the wall, tracked his wife without her knowledge, and watched her from a neighbor's backyard in the middle of the night, which begs the question, guys. It begs the question. Is this another Pastor J.P. Miller situation, a coercive control situation? That is what the defense is claiming, right? Ashley Benefield feared him, Taylor said. She left him a letter when she moved out 3 years prior to the homicide, detailing how scared she was of him because of all of these acts. She feared for herself and for her unborn child. 3 years before the shooting, she left him. He pursued. She rejected him. He would not take no for an answer. She at times despised him. He did not care. She moved to get away from him. He followed her. So that is the setup to this case. That, I mean, it's been a 3-day prosecution presentation is pretty short. They either are really, I don't know, they're either very convinced that they've got a strong case and they just laid it out there, and that the defense has no really good defense, so they didn't, put anybody on the stand that might help them, I guess, deflect anything the defense might put up there, or they just don't have very much. So I ask you guys, and by the way, if you want to get my attention in the live stream, just put GF in your comment, and that will help me to actually see what you're saying. I use a little filter here on my end. All right, so do we have a very controlling, a very coercive, an abusive, an angry, and not take no for an answer kind of guy that is our victim here? Or is this just a woman who wanted, like the prosecution says, just to be a single mom, just wanted his baby, and that was it, and then she wanted out? Is that the case? Tell me what you guys think in the comments, and I'll put in my filter so that I can see the stuff that you're telling me about. And of course, Autumn has already said, please do that. If any fishies have a question. Pretty awesome, Autumn. Okay. So what I want to do now that we're kind of up to speed and we know where we're going, I want to go over to the video here, and we are going to, this is basically the first 20 minutes or so, 22 minutes of her testimony. If you guys stick with me, we're going to finish up her testimony tomorrow. Just today, we're not going to be able to do everything here. Nifty 50 says, Gavin, I don't think the prosecution is going to win this one. They aren't doing enough to prove it. So Nifty 50, I have watched this part of her testimony multiple times, and I don't know where I am on this, because she cries in her testimony, but it very much reminds me of J.P. Miller. There were no tears. There are like no tears. So, I mean, well, if the prosecution didn't prove it, and is it possible that she's going to get away with murder? Nifty 50 says, I'm watching the trial, and the defense had a witness today that was spot on DA. Yeah, and I saw the argument that they had about another witness that might be coming next week. So yeah, the defense is going hard on DA, and I don't know. That's it. I think it's probably a good defense, but let's watch her this 20 or so minutes of her testimony, and you guys tell me if you think that she is a credible witness, because don't forget that in a court of law, the only judges of fact are the jury members. They're the only people who are judges of fact. And I don't know. I wonder if they're going to find her credible. I personally am having a hard time so far, but let's get into it and find out.
Good morning. Will you tell us your full name and spell your last name, please?
Ashley Christina Benefield, Benefield.
And I'm going to interrupt as we go along, guys, so don't get angry.
How are you feeling this morning, Ashley?
Nervous.
All right. Try the best you can to relax, and we'll get through this.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit, Ashley, about where you were born and raised.
I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland.
What type of family values were instilled in you?
Sorry about the volume here, guys. I can't
believe in the importance of kindness.
I
and
can't get it any
compassion,
higher.
empathy, hard work, accountability.
What type of,
I'm sorry. I talked over it. I'm very sorry about the volume. It's very low volume. It does turn up here in a little bit. This is as high as I can get it right now. Yeah, so just bear with me.
work did your father do?
My
I'll allow it.
My dad was a Naval Academy graduate who was a Navy pilot and then started flying privately for the airlines, which is what he still does.
And how about your mom?
When I was born, my parents decided that my mom would stay home to take care of me full time since my dad traveled so much.
I want to ask you a few questions about your childhood. Did you have any siblings?
I grew up an only child.
Were your parents active in your development as a child?
Yes, they were very active in my schooling and supportive of my pursuit of the arts.
Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. We need some headsets.
Sorry.
How many? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I
We're getting
misunderstood.
better volume now.
All right, Ms. Benefield, yeah, if you could scoot a little bit closer and speak up so the jury can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Do the best
I
you can.
apologize. Go ahead, sir.
Sure, do the best you can, Ashley.
Okay.
Do you have any hobbies?
I love art. I like drawing, painting, sculpting, ballet. I enjoy gardening, baking, cooking. Most importantly, I'm a mom.
What high school did you attend?
I'm going to sustain at this point.
Um,
I'm trying to establish her ballet, Your Honor.
All right, if it's related to something specific, then
Yes,
yes.
sir. Thank you. Tell us about your high school, Ashley.
I went to a small private Christian school.
And did you study anything in particular in high school?
I was focused on pursuing ballet.
And was ballet a large part of your curriculum when you were in high school?
Yes, I danced full time. I actually finished my last few credits my senior year with an homeschool program for athletes. So I
Hey guys, these kind of jumps and skips are part of the live stream. I can't really do anything about it, but just wanted to let you know.
could dance during the day.
Do you still dance professionally?
No.
Why not?
I retired after I tore my hamstring.
I want to ask you about Doug. When did the two of you meet?
We met August 25th of 2016.
And tell us what your impression of him was when you met.
He was very confident in who he was, passionate about what he was doing for work. He was fascinating to talk to.
What was it, if you recall in particular, that attracted you to him, Ashley?
He was funny, very smart, charming. We just instantly clicked.
Was Doug in the military?
Yes, just like my dad, he was in naval aviation.
Did he turn out to be who you thought he was?
No, not at all.
I want to direct your attention, Ashley, now, if I can, to the day of the homicide, September 27, 2020.
Guys, this is actually something that's really important. They got married like within 2 weeks of meeting. Like no knock on that, because Kimberly and I got engaged within 5 weeks of meeting, and 2.5 months from the time we met. It only took 2.5 months from the time we met to the time we got married. So no, I think it's 5 months, right? So it was like 2.5 months, 5 weeks from the time we met, we got engaged, and then another 2.5 months later, we were married. So like short engagements, I totally get, and short relationships, I totally get, and I know that they can work out. I'm nearly 25 years married with the perfect woman for me, right? But these people had known each other 2 weeks when they got married, 13 days, something like that. So that question of, did he turn out to be who you thought he was? And she said no. Like, well, I mean, what did you think he was? Maybe because he did the same thing that her dad did. She believed him to be like her father. They're let's see, they've got a 26-year age difference, right? So I honestly, I don't know what the psychology of this is, but I think maybe she felt like he was maybe a little bit like her dad, and maybe her dad, like, it seems like she had a terrific experience with her parents, right? So um I don't know, that that's pretty sad if like you full on meet and marry in 2 weeks a guy that's like sleeping with the enemy husband, right? That's I can feel sympathy for that.
Okay.
Specifically late in the afternoon, would you tell us why Doug was at your home?
He came over to help load some of the larger items that my mom and I had kind of pre-staged in the garage into the U-Haul truck.
And were there any discussions between the two of you about the order that these things should be placed in the back of the truck?
Yes, we had discussed that my things would be going in last, right at the front, so they would be easy to get out first. At one point, he had me help him load one of the larger pieces into the back of the U-Haul truck. And when I was up in the truck with him, I realized that everything had been all like mixed together and it was no longer separated. And I pointed that out to him, and he got really offended and upset. He said, it shouldn't be your stuff, your house, my house.
Was there
Okay, so I do have some commentary on this one. They were living apart from one another. Like, it was his house, her house. And it seems, if I'm to believe her side of the story, it does seem like there's a little bit of that control. Not a little bit, a lot of that control, right? Like, no, you and I are man and wife, and we have a child together, and that sort of thing kind of just smacks control. Now, on the other hand, well, no, I don't know that I want to say out loud what it is that I'm thinking, but like, yeah, I think I will just move on from there.
a particular demand he made at that time?
He said I needed to start acting like a wife.
Tell us at that point how you chose to deal with him.
I tried to change the subject. I could see how upset he was getting. So I wanted to kind of alleviate that.
And how was Doug reacting to your efforts to do that?
He was getting more upset and aggressive and threatening.
Do you attempt to avoid confrontation with him?
Yes.
What do you do?
I was trying to get him to leave. I kept suggesting that maybe we should be done. Saying that I was tired. We should just wrap it up for the day.
And what was Doug's reaction to that effort?
He heard me, but he completely disregarded what I was saying.
Ashley, would you tell us if there came a time shortly thereafter where there was physical contact between the two of you?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
We were in the living room, and as he came up to me, instead of walking past me, he walked like right into me, like a body check. He like bumped me.
His shoulder to your shoulder?
Yeah, so this almost feels like, by the way, Ekouter, I do see your question, is it true that Doug B has 2 sons? From what I read, he has a daughter from a previous marriage, and then they have a daughter together. That's what I understand, but I could be completely wrong on that. Okay, now she's talking about the body checks, right? This if this happened, this is something that is so strange. Like that is something that men do to one another, especially what would we call them, like manly men, very masculine men, to instigate a fight, but to do it against somebody way smaller than you, your wife or something like that, that almost to me smacks of almost mental illness, like rage, right? He's like outraged himself. And, well, he hasn't but he has become so full of rage that he would do that it's like a bully doing on a schoolyard, doing it to like an 8th grader doing that to a 3rd grader, right? It's just not right. And it's just not right. There's something wrong going on there if this happened.
Yes.
And describe for us, if you can, the force of the bump.
It caught me off guard. I almost fell. I like stumbled.
How was he acting at that point?
He was clearly hostile. He was mumbling under his breath and was glaring at me.
What was your concern?
I could see that it was escalating, and I didn't want him to blow up at me.
Was there a second instance of physical contact?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
We were in the garage, and it was very much like the living room. I had just suggested strongly that I wanted to be done for the day, and he, as he came up to me, he walked right into me. Again, body checked me.
Finally, was there a third instance of contact?
Yes.
What happened?
We were in the hallway, and we were coming opposite directions towards each other, and he had a box, and as he walked up to me, he looked me in the eye, and he drove the corner of the box up into me.
Where?
My side.
Indicating on your right side.
Yes, sir.
In the hip area?
Yes, sir.
What was the result of that?
Scratching. It burned.
Yes, sir.
Ashley, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as defense exhibit numbers 8, 9, and 10. Approach.
Yeah, just do me a favor, whenever you're holding them up, they were facing the jury until they're admitted.
Sorry.
Yes, sir, thank you very much. 8, 9, and 10?
Yes, sir. Will you tell us what Exhibit 8 represents, Ashley?
It's a scratch right here.
And was that scratch caused by the cardboard box that you just related?
Yes, sir.
When was that photograph taken?
The night of September 27th, 2020, at the sheriff's office.
Okay, and how about exhibit number 9?
Also scratches on my side.
From the same incident?
Yes, sir.
Also taken that evening at the sheriff's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and exhibit 10?
The same scratches as in 9. They're just, it's a close-up.
Do these photographs, Ashley, truly and accurately reflect the scratches and bruises you received on late that afternoon on September 27, 2020?
Yes,
Do they accurately reflect how the scratches looked when they were fresh?
Yes.
Thank you. I move respectfully, Your Honor, defense exhibits 8, 9, and 10 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
They'll be received.
What was your response, Ashley, after being struck by the cardboard box?
I apologized.
Why would you have apologized?
Because I could see how upset he was, and I didn't want him to get more mad at me.
Doug, go.
Okay, so I want to go back to Nifty 50's comment. I think she's totally faking on the stand, but I also think maybe she was battered. I've been looking for that photo, and I haven't seen the photo, but judging from the way that the prosecution illustrated the scene, they didn't feel like there was any need for self-defense. And with Ashley's background of having used law enforcement to try to, get away, for lack of a better term, from Doug Benefield, makes me feel like the prosecution and law enforcement wasn't buying it. But if any of you have those photos, I would love to see them. All right.
After that incident,
He continued to the garage with the box.
and what happens at that point?
We started getting into a back and forth about being done for the day and what still needed to be packed and that I wanted to be done. And we ended up in our daughter's bedroom, and he started screaming at me. He said, "Shut the fuck up." He started calling me names.
Yeah, I should have given you a heads up on this. There is some bad language a few times here. Sorry about that.
He said, "I can see what you're doing. You're trying to get me to leave." He said, "I don't have to leave. I can stay and spend the night if I want to because I'm your husband."
At that point, Ashley, how did you feel with respect to your own personal?
Now, this is a good comment from Iris. She called him. It's obvious she didn't fear him. In my opinion, she had a plan she carried out. Yeah, like if you are so fearful of your spouse or ex-spouse or whomever, why would you arrange to have, and he's been abusive, right? Why would you arrange to move together? That does seem odd to me. So Iris says in his opinion, she had a plan and she carried it out. That's an interesting comment, Iris.
Safety.
I was scared.
Did you take any steps to try to avoid anything further?
Yes, I ran to try to leave the house.
And where did you run to?
To the front door.
Did you make it?
No.
Tell us what happened.
Okay, watch her body language here. There won't be a tear that I can see anyway, and she's going to begin to shake.
He stopped me. He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back. I'm not really sure how he did it, but he spun around so he was in front of me, between me and the door.
So
He said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
he said, "Where the fuck do you think you're going?"
What was your response? Do you specifically recall? Tell us.
I just blurted it out and I said, I'm done and you need to leave now.
What was Doug's reaction to that command to leave now?
He said, you can't fucking leave me.
Then what happens?
To me, that I don't know that that's all that believable. She had left him. They were living in separate houses.
He hit me on the side of the head.
Ashley, I'm going to... It's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit number 7. Tell us what that represents.
It's a picture of my face.
Is it an accurate picture of what your face looked like on that night?
Yes, sir.
Who took that photograph?
I don't remember her name. She
Was-
was at the sheriff's office.
At the sheriff's office? Okay. Now,
Hey, this is a good comment, Black Widower. Like, yeah, I don't have any empathy here because I've never experienced this. I just, and several of you have said, I believe her, right? And maybe it is very confusing because abusers don't abuse 24/7. You're correct. And maybe you do become mentally and emotionally drained or exhausted or unable to, or confused, like you said. That's a good comment.
what is it about that photograph that shows or reflects the slap or the hit that you got to the side of your head by Doug?
That side of my face is like swollen and puffy and discolored around my eye.
And is your eyelid drooping
Yes,
on the side where you were hit?
yes.
Your Honor, I move Defense Exhibit number 7 into evidence.
Received.
What was different at that moment, Ashley, than at any time in your prior relationship with Doug?
He had never actually hit me before.
What did you do?
I ran
Where?
to my room
Why?
because I was scared.
Ashley, did you have anything in your room that could protect you?
I had my gun.
Did you grab the gun?
Yes.
As you're grabbing the gun, what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the door hitting the doorstop.
As if it is open?
Yes.
And what do you see, Ashley, when you look up?
Doug was standing in the doorway. His face was red. Like the veins were bulging in his neck. The way he was looking at me, it didn't even look like Doug. His eyes were...
Did he yell anything at you?
He said, "You're fucking done."
And what does he do at that point?
I held the gun like in front of me and I said, "Stop." And he like turned and he got into this like a fighting stance. I got low and he started like moving his arms and his hands around. And he was making these like jerking motions.
What were you expecting when you were holding the gun out in front of you and you told him to stop?
I thought when he saw it he would leave.
Did he?
No.
At that point, Ashley, what are you thinking?
I thought he was gonna kill me.
Tell us what happens next.
He started coming towards me, And then he lunged at me. And I started pulling the trigger. And he just kept coming. And I remember trying to move to get away from him, but he kept coming at me.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I would love to see the jurors on this. If I were a reporter in the room, I would be listening to her and I would be watching the jury. Because to me, just looking at this, it's not credible. However, we've got a camera zoomed in and the jurors are all the way across the room. So who knows?
Ashley, would you tell us why, if you're holding a loaded firearm, you were attempting to move away?
I was trying to get away from him. I was terrified.
Autumn sees it differently than I do.
All right, so you're firing, he keeps advancing, what happens next?
It was like his feet slipped out from under him and his legs went up in the air.
When Doug hits the floor, what's your immediate reaction?
I ran to get help.
Can you tell us how many shots you fired?
I have no idea. I was in a panic.
Do you remember anything about the shooting beyond what you've told us here?
It was a blur.
Where did you run for help, Ashley?
To my neighbor's house.
What's your neighbor's name?
John Sant.
Ashley, I have to ask you a couple of very difficult questions. You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Ashley, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury why you shot Doug.
I was scared to death. I thought he was gonna kill me. There was nowhere to go. I was trapped in my own house. He wouldn't let me leave.
As you sit here today, Ashley, how do you feel about what happened?
Horrible. He's my child. So I'm gonna have to explain it all to her.
Judge, I
We're
wonder, can
almost
we
to
have
the
a
end of this
minute,
clip.
maybe a brief recess to have her compose herself?
All right.
All right, so that is the end of the clip. Let's move over here. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I appreciate dissenting opinions, which I think there are several of. Let's see what you're saying here. Lori says, when a person relives trauma, they will shake like her. I feel bad for her. I mean, I'm not a professional, so I can't disagree with you, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I've never seen somebody really, truly cry without there being moisture escaping their eye holes. That's what I'm saying. It's, I don't know. And like talking about the money, so it does, like a lot of you are talking about the money in the comments. I do believe that they were pretty darn wealthy, that he had, that, they had purchased ballet schools and he was a big donor to the GOP. So, maybe she was interested in him because of his money. And that was it. Autumn says, in my opinion, so far, I believe her. She shouldn't have ended his life though. Like if I believe her, if I were to believe her, I would be okay with the justification. Like if she thought that she was going to die. She was in her home. It was not his home. She ran. She left the situation and he followed after her. Then, yeah, I think the justification to shoot him probably is there, legally speaking. And listen, if you're going to shoot, it's not the movies. You don't shoot to injure people. Like, you shoot to stop them. And so, but for me, I don't know that she's all that credible, and I'm really curious what the jury's going to think about that. Night Heron agrees with me. Dom's mom agrees with Autumn, which is great. Look, we're all here getting along, disagreeing with one another. It's awesome. If you're not living in it, you can't say it's not validated. Not sure what you mean. It's not validated. Now, I don't like that argument very much, Lori. Like, see, because in this case, the jury has not lived it, and yet they are the ones that have to be the judges of fact. So, yeah, I really dislike that argument in general. Oh, if you don't have this experience, then you can't have an opinion on it. And I just think that that's kind of a weak place to put an argument, but I appreciate it. A. Heinemann says, Gavin, people under coercive control to try to continue to try to placate and appease. She and her mom were moving to her mom's childhood home, which she inherited. He followed her. I'm assuming because he had the money, so it didn't matter where he lived. He wanted to be close to his daughter or something. I don't know. But you're right. That is true. I mean, people who are under that abusive, coercive control are not making the right choices in a lot of senses because they don't understand what that effect has on them. Agreed. Let's see. Black Widower says, I thought she was guilty based on shows I watched, but watching the trial, I believe her. I was wrong. Okay, good. Dom's mom says, I'm still kind of on the fence, but leaning towards believing her after today. Okay. Let's see what else. Butterfly Kisses says she is suspicious. And Night Heron says, I think it sounds forced. Let's see. And yeah, her testimony was she retreated to her room and the crime scene was her bedroom, right? So that's what it was. Allison says, the bullets tell the story, but if I was on the jury, could I convict? That's an interesting question. Like, you guys know, I've been on a jury on a murder trial that we convicted on. It's an interesting thing. In fact, it's one of the things that you talk about a lot in the jury room. There are just people in the jury room that can't convict on a murder because of what the consequences are, and they disagree with the consequences, or the consequences are too harsh. Yeah, it's hard. Let's see. Karen Lee says the jury is out for me on this one. Let's see. Dom's mom, especially after hearing the defense's expert talk about the wheel of control or whatever it's called, the DV expert, so many similarities. Ashlyn Ann says, I think that she was lying. That was not that many coincidences. They hadn't lived together for 3 years. Okay. Let's see. It is nuanced, Black Widower. That's good. Mark says, I have my own opinions. If I share them, I will get a timeout. So I can't make comments. I just watch and listen. Great coverage, Gavin. Well, thanks for being here, Mark, and thanks for self-policing. That's good. Well, here's interesting. Night Heron. Plus, she's had to think about it for years, and this moment, too, she prepared for. I would be more inclined to believe it if she had a flat effect. But who knows? Yeah. I mean, I hadn't made that connection, but now that you say it, Night Heron, yeah, like we're 3 years after this. Yeah. Jamie says to Mark, you can respectfully say your opinion. You are welcome to do that. Let's see, a couple more before we call it a night. Let's see. She was asking him to stop and get boxes and food. She said herself she is a performer. That was Amber Heard 2.0. Oh, wow. Strong words from Ashlyn Ann. Oof. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, Foghorn Patty. Now you just want to start something. You know who shouldn't get away with what they did? Karen Reed. That's hilarious. Okay, just a couple more and then we're going to call it. Laura Dad, this is a good one to stop on. This is an abused victim from Doug's actions and control. We don't know if jury members have lived it or not. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if jury members have lived it or not. They still have to make that call. They are the finders of fact, right? So who knows? Guys, tomorrow we're going to continue with Ashley's testimony. We're going to go, it's about an hour or so long, so we've got about another 40 minutes. We're going to do that together tomorrow. And hopefully you will join me. If this is your kind of thing, please do so. And I think that'll be probably in the early afternoon. I live in Western Pennsylvania, guys, where you have to mow your lawn every other day, it seems like. Mow it in the morning, and it needs to be mowed in the evening too. So I have to do some actual chores around the house, but sometime in the afternoon, we will come back together and we will talk about this case of Ashley and Doug Benefield. And I hope that you will join me. While I've got you, real quick, please remember you can always visit my website, gavinfish.com. If you want to reach out to me, you can do that with this little contact button here. That'll take you to a little form that you can fill out. You can remain completely anonymous if you want, or you can send me all your contact information. I read everything that comes in. I don't reply to all of them, so you'll have to forgive me if I don't reply to yours, but you can do that. And then if you click on this little fishy right here, that will take you to the fish tank. On Facebook, that is another great way to interact with me. It's just a group of us fishies over there. So please do join us. Last thing that I will say before we go is we're coming up. We are coming up on CrimeCon UK 2024. Coming up. It's the 21st and 22nd of September. It's in London. It's at a new venue. I just bought my airline tickets. I just reserved the hotel. And this year I am taking I never say my, because our children don't belong to just me. Try not to say my, but our daughter is coming with me on this trip, and we're going to spend some time together there. It's going to be terrific. If you use code FISH, if you're going to go to CrimeCon UK and buy your tickets, use code FISH, you will save yourself about 10%, which is not a little money. So I encourage you to do that. With that, I will bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining me this evening, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.